It's Halloween Ends. Are we pleased that Halloween ends, Peter, or are we not?
Please, enough already of all these Halloweens. Get rid of Michael Myers forever.
Oh, well, hang on.
Hang on, haven't we realised over 40 years of watching these films that you can't get rid of movie monsters like this? They always come back either in sequels, remakes, or reboots.
Yeah, exactly. And there's been, 13 of these? That's my understanding.
I gave up counting a long time ago.
Yeah. Is it right? Is that right, Dave? 13?
Yeah, it is, yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, notwithstanding the fact that the title is Halloween Ends, and there's been 3 since the reboot, it is fair to ask whether Michael Myers, played by James Jude Courtney, will ever die. And we're not about to give you the answer to that, but we can say that his bloodlust has not dissipated, and this is quite a chilling finale to what is a slasher franchise. So claret will most certainly be spilt, and the body count will mount. So no horror fan would expect it to be any other way, and why should they? It's set, of course, in Haddonfield in Illinois, and it starts out on Halloween night in 2019. You got a 21-year-old by the name of Corey Cunningham, played by Rowan Campbell, who is babysitting a youngster who pays him no respect. And then something bad happens. Next we cut to Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, whose life has been consumed by the masked serial killer, and who's finishing her memoir detailing her experiences. Now, Strode has built a trusting friendship with a fellow survivor called Lindsay Wallace, played by Kyle Richards, with whom she has built a trusting friendship. It's 4 years after the events of Halloween Kills that came out only last year. Strode has bought a house in Haddonfield where she's settled with her adult granddaughter Alison, played by Andi Matichak, who is a nurse. And although Alison has survived an onslaught from the mass murderer, her parents did not. Alison hooks up with outcast Corey Cunningham, the one who is the babysitter, both of whom are living with and dealing with their respective traumas. But theirs is hardly a conventional courtship. Both continue to be picked on, Cunningham in particular, and the pathological killer reappears in Haddonfield. In trying to protect her granddaughter, Strode merely succeeds in alienating her. Also reappearing in Halloween Ends in smaller role is Will Patton as Officer Frank Hawkins. So there we have it. Great to see Jamie Lee Curtis back fighting the good fight against Resident Evil, and she has on that don't mess with me look. And I actually also appreciated Andi Matichak's characterisation of her granddaughter, desperate to leave the past in the past and move on with her life. Rowan Campbell, well, he does most of the heavy lifting as Cunningham goes through a metamorphosis from withdrawn to empowered. And the screenplay is by the director, David Gordon Green. He's been at the helm of and has co-written all 3 films since the franchise restarted in 2018. So screenplay by him, by Paul Brad Logan, Chris Bernier and Danny McBride. Look, it's okay. It's reasonably engaging for what it is, and it also allows for a super quick stock take of all that Strode has gone through before heading toward yet another confrontation with Myers. What did you think of it, Dave?
Look, it's interesting because I think David Gordon Green probably has one of the most difficult roles in cinema this year in finishing off this franchise, because let's be honest, if he gets it wrong, horror fans will let him know online. It's one of the things that goes along with being a horror filmmaker is that your fans are very vocal online. I kind of like the fact that for about the first quarter of this film, you're left thinking, where is this film going? I think a lot of people will go into this film expecting that it will just literally be battle after battle of Laurie versus Michael, and they may actually be thrown a little bit that without giving anything away, you don't see Michael for a huge chunk of this film. So I think a lot of people will be wondering about that, but also I think it's a very brave choice by David Gordon Green and his screenwriters to do that. At times the film actually feels like it's more of a sequel or a trilogy part of the It franchise than it does Halloween. But I like that he makes that really brave choice. I don't think we're ever going to see another Halloween movie that's as good as the originals, and largely because John Carpenter's not that involved with them these days other than just okaying the script at the end. But Look, it's okay. I don't think it's the greatest Halloween film of all time, but it's okay. That's what I'll say.
Well, I mean, returning from Halloween and Halloween Kills, I'm talking about the 2018 version of Halloween and 2021, the director of photography, the production designer, the makeup artist, the editor, the costume designer, the composers. So, I mean, that obviously consistency is not a bad thing. What did you think of it, Greg?
I sort of liked it up to a point there. It's not the best, as Dave said, it's not the best Halloween movie there, but it certainly has enough to blood and guts to entertain there. But the thing to take away from this is the way it shows that bullying and abuse and trauma can create monsters of its own out of anybody there. I like Jamie Lee Curtis. She has a strength in the role there. And I thought she looked younger here than she did in Halloween Kills somehow. But she has a good, solid presence as Laurie Strode there, who's haunted by the spectre of Michael Myers. And it goes into psychological territory there. It explores the theme of trauma there. David Gordon Green did a great job, I thought, with the direction there. And I thought John Carpenter's iconic score still manages to send chills up your spine there. And it's a good way to finish off the series. Or is it?
Haha, very good. Well, look, I think it's also a satisfying conclusion. No shortage of violence, blood, gore. I mean, they're the staples of the genre, aren't they, Peter?
Yes, they are, but they've been handled in a much better way in other recent horror films like Smile. The problem I have with Halloween Ends is the impact of having the Michael Myers character influencing this young man, and sort of the spirit sort of starts to inhabit him. I don't know about that. I think that is a questionable aspect of the way the plot develops. I think this film is also a triumph, rather than of direction, of editing. The editing process in this film is quite phenomenal, because it takes a lot of scenes and the editor has put them together in such a way to give you the impression that this is a really fascinating and involving film. I didn't quite feel that, but nevertheless, technically, it is well made. I really enjoyed Jamie Lee Curtis's performance. It's so good to see her having such a powerful role again in this sort of franchise. I just wasn't totally convinced by the way the plot developed, just like the previous film we talked about, Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon. So, again, there are issues about writing, which I always find can be problematic, and in this case, editing has sort of papered over all of that.
I think there's a psychological element to Jamie Lee Curtis in the way that she sort of characterises her character so well. I mean, she knows the character inside out, doesn't she, Peter? And that helps. But the way,
yes,
I think the writing of her character in this one has been very, very strong. You didn't think that?
Her character, yes. But I think the whole Halloween franchise and the idea of Halloween Ends hasn't quite been as pulled off as well as I would have liked.
Okay, so here's my question to you: when are they going to make another one? I think there will be a break before we see Michael Myers again. But I do expect, like Greg, to see Michael Myers reappear. Somebody else will pick it up and run with it, but it could be 10 or more years. What do you think?
Oh, look, the idea of a spirit of Michael Myers being able to inhabit other people, as created in this film, of course there's going to be other versions.
Exactly. All right, so you start off, Peter. Score out of 10 for Halloween.
Yes, look, it wasn't too bad, I suppose, but I had some problems with it. 6 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Greg?
I'll give it 6 out of 10 too.
Dave?
Yeah, I'm going 6 out of 10 as well.
And I liked it a bit more, 6.5 out of 10 for mine. So there we go. That is
Halloween.
Halloween.
I like horror films though, Alex.
No. Well, look, I suppose, Greg, in fairness, I've seen a lot of horror movies since. Remember, in the bad old days, I really struggled with it. I've got used to it. I agree. Peter, what was that film you referenced, Smile? I mean, yes. I thought Smile was a far superior film. I gave Smile an 8 out of 10 or 8.5. I think it was 8. And I think, Dave, you liked that a lot too, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. And horror's one of my favourite genres. So, yeah, I'm on the opposite scale to you. And I probably judge Halloween Ends a little bit more harshly because of that, just because it is one of my favourite genres and I see so many films in that genre.
Yeah, so gradually I'm sort of thawing, shall we say, and getting used to it. I mean, there have been some really terrifying horrors. There's no question about it. And this, I suppose, there is a different. This is a real slasher. I mean, sometimes they're horror, sometimes they're slasher. Do you like both, Greg, or not?
I like well-done horror films. I mean, some of my favourite films include the original Omen, The Exorcist, which are horror films that were of that classic style where it wasn't so much blood and guts and slasher, but more the atmosphere they created.
But, I mean, that's what I'm getting at. So, but the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I mean, that's a slasher rather than straight horror.
Yeah, it had its moments, but some slasher films are okay when they're done well, and some are just stomach-churning nonsense.
Well, on J-Air 88 FM, listen out.